Bomb blasts in Damascus with dead and wounded. For nearly 2 years, a civil war has raged in Syria, with no peaceful end in sight. The Arab Spring has given way to a bitter winter. Egypt is also seeing violent protests. There's little left of the early euphoria. The Muslim Brotherhood-backed president has assumed sweeping powers, and the draft constitution has caused widespread disappointment. Analysts see anti-democratic tendencies.
The Muslim Brotherhood never had democracy as its goal. Democracy was just a means to a goal. The goal was clear: to fundamentally reform society, to reinstate Islam and establish it as a comprehensive system for deciding all aspects of life.
Certainly last summer's elections and the recent referendum over the Constitution are signs of a democratic process. But they leave much to be desired, says the Nobel Peace Prize laureate Mohammed El-Baradei.
Why do we have this draft that is not a democratic constitution? Why does the Constitution weaken the independence of the judiciary? Why does it not guarantee women's rights? Why are children being forced to work? Why have a constitution that creates a new dictatorship?
The Egyptian economy is weak. The young people who were the motor of the revolution are the losers of the social changes. Youth unemployment stands at 25% or more. Those who hoped that democratization would bring wealth and stability have seen their hopes dashed. Some policymakers in Germany say it's time to lower expectations.
I had mixed feelings about the Arab Spring from the start, and now we see that implementing democracy in these countries is a lengthy process. I still have hope. There's no reason per se why Islam and democracy shouldn't coexist, but at the moment there are setbacks in Egypt. I hope it stays peaceful.
With the Muslim Brotherhood in control, Western governments find their influence is waning. That's in part because of their past association with the undemocratic regime of ousted President Hosni Mubarak.
At the moment, there's not much the West can do. For one thing, none of the conflict parties are particularly fond of the West, mainly because the West supported Mubarak for decades. And Mubarak, in turn, suppressed both the Muslim Brotherhood and the liberal opposition.
The situation in Syria is far worse. The regime of Bashar al-Assad is making war on the Syrian people, firing at rebels who want to overthrow the dictatorship. Opposition figures are jailed or have left the country, among them the Berlin-based activist Hossan Ibrahim.
We could see the regime falls in 3-4 months, or maybe later on to 6 months. Of course, anticipating it's nothing for sure. But who will come, whoever will come, would be, of course, better than the regime.
The pressure on Damascus is mounting. There are long lines for bread as the supply situation worsens. And people are fleeing to refugee camps across the Syrian borders. The West is trying to isolate the regime, but so far there's no military action in sight.
I don't see a military solution in the short term, but as the American president said very clearly, the use of chemical or biological weapons would be crossing a red line, which cannot be ignored. The international community would have to act.
Even a rapid end to the Assad regime would not mean peace in Syria. The country is shattered and divided. And as the example of Egypt shows, a new government does not guarantee democratic institutions.
1 or 2 years of instability, that's of course understandable, but at least looking at those demos or those experiences happened before us, that we learned from a lot, from Tunisia, from Libya, and from Egypt, of course, that will help us to be always in the right course.
Whether in Syria or Egypt, whoever holds the reins in the Arab world in the future, the people will insist on having more of a say. That, at least, is one result of the Arab Spring.